Hello, welcome back to my kitchen. This video is a sequel to Sandwich Time, in which I got hungry. I am hungry. Turned on my field recorder and made a sandwich. I proceeded to eat it because I was in the mood. And then made a morphogene reel out of the recordings. Since I made the reel, I've spent some time listening to it, playing with it, rearranging it. I come to the realization that there's a lot going on here. You know how when you look at a glass of champagne, you might notice that bubbles flow endlessly from what appear to be infinitesimal points? Champagne quanta. They're generative. As are the genes that have been discovered inside this audio representation of a sandwich. Even though the physical meal in that video is long digested at this point, in terms of our musical creation, I've just begun the prep work. We still need to arrange our ingredients and decide in what way and proportion we're going to mix and prepare them before we can move forward with cooking the meal. So in other words, before I can even begin developing an approach for composing with this sandwich, I feel I need to do something of a taxonomy on the reel so that I have a good idea of what the options are. So I'm going to excuse myself and go do that. Okay, I've done it. I have categorized the splices into several categories as follows: transients, tones, rhythms, drones, textures. These categories are not exhaustive, they are not atomistic, and they're not even mutually exclusive. As with almost any other material or concept we'd find in a synthesizer or anywhere else, the borders are porous. For example, one sound may be a rhythm when looped in full, but becomes a transient when gene size is smaller, and a drone or texture when it is even smaller and we slide it. So we need to look at the characteristics of each splice when it's closest to its original form to help make sense of our growing familiarity with the material we're working with. And I should note that even the original forms are already altered by my hand. I chose an on-table mic stand so that the vibration of the table would manifest as resonant low frequencies. When making the reel, I placed the splice points right before the loudest transients, so that when slide is counterclockwise, we get louder genes overall. And quieter ones with slide further clockwise. I cut out all silence and intentional vocalizations from these long recordings. I made splice points at every cut edit, even though some adjacent sections were the same type of sound, leading to sets of splices within the reel that serve as sort of variations. These are choices I made almost subconsciously or instinctively But they were choices, and they will inscribe themselves on the actual experience of patching with this reel. Let's have a look at a couple specific splices. Notice how there's the sound of a passing truck in the background of this loop. When I loop it, I become much more aware of the frequency of that truck's engine. I can even hear it changing a little in this short time. Maybe changing speed, maybe a Doppler shift as it drove by the building. What's more musical, a truck passing by a music school or a truck passing by a synthesizer factory? This is the longest splice, and I think that aside from the moment of the glass being placed on the table at the beginning, we can clearly categorize it as a drone, even before it is time stretched. Here, we're sequencing organize. We can expand and contract the sequence using an attenuator patched in series, as I've done with channel 3 of maths here, or we can use the octave ranges on the Rene quantize pages to switch between a few set expansions and contractions. We can maintain the contour of this sequence while creating variations by just changing the basic setting of organize, the start point that we're sequencing from. This is all the very tip of the iceberg of possibilities with this reel, or with any reel. It can really be worth your time to dig into all the characteristics of not just the sound, but the way the sound is structured, to really get a sense of what the possibilities are when playing with it. And even once we've done so, there are more questions to be answered. For example, this reel was recorded in stereo, so when working with it, we have to decide, are we going to preserve that stereo image that immerses us a little more in these sounds? Or would we rather patch just a mono output, pan it around with the X-pan, add a new spontaneous dimension of expression as we play? And of course, there are the big questions. What is this music about? Is there meaning in it? All the music I make means something to me, but I don't want to tell you what your music should be about. I chose a recording of a sandwich because it seemed like a more or less universal experience. Everybody eats. But as we've seen here, as soon as we start to work towards representing this experience, it starts to shape itself in ways that are very particular to this sound, this sandwich, this room, this time, and the ways that these hands and this mind have chosen to interact with it. Every choice we make when patching gives rise to more choices. Most of these are choices you can only make for yourself, to conjure something, the music and the meaning that you want to create. So I've uploaded this reel to Freesound, and you can find a link to it in the video description. If you have ideas about how you would use material like this, please let us know in the comments. If you want to make music out of it, or better yet, make music out of your own reel of a sandwich or an omelet or whatever experience means something to you, please share that in the comments too. And as always, happy patching.